The 4th of July is the celebration of America's birthday, marking the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. Railroads have played a role in the festivities, especially with the American Freedom Train, which operated from 1975 to 1976 and was pulled by famous steam locomotives such as Southern Pacific 484 number 4449. Imagine a new kind of 4th of July celebration in the future with RS events. That's the focus of this episode. We will hear tributes to the well-known Norfolk and Western A-Class 2664 engines traveling between Columbus, Ohio and Kenova, West Virginia via Portsmouth, Ohio. This is part of the 9th episode of the NW Saga and episode 20 of Season 2 of the Revival Steam podcast. I am Alec Butler, the narrator, host, and sound editor of this fictional railroad podcast, which shares stories and sounds to help you imagine what 21st century American revenue steam trains might look and sound like. Before starting the story, let's look into the history of the two routes east and north of Portsmouth, Ohio. The line heading southeast along the Ohio River to South Point and crossing into Kenova, West Virginia, is part of the NW's Ohio Extension line that began in 1889. It became a vital route for the railroad's freight, particularly coal. Today, this line is operated by Norfolk Southern Railway's Pocahontas Division and carries different freight trains. The route between Portsmouth and Columbus, Ohio has a rich history. Passenger train service began in 1870. The line was built by the Scioto Valley Railroad from 1876 to 1878 and was acquired by the NW in July of 1890 to support coal transportation. The connection to West Virginia was completed in 1892 with the opening of the Kenova Bridge over the Ohio River. In Columbus, coal was transferred to the Pennsylvania Railroad for its final journey to Sandusky, where ships carry it to ports across the Great Lakes. Now, having explored the history of the two lines, let's now focus on the main highlights of this episode. The A-Class 2664 locomotives were the primary freight engines for the Norfolk and Western. Built from 1936 to 1950, 43 of these strong and swift locomotives were designed to quickly haul freight along the NW main line. It was a common sight to see and hear the A-Class engines hauling hopper cars of coal through Virginia's mountains. Only one NW 2664, number 1218, survives the torch. Retired in 1959, it served as a stationary boiler at a plant until 1964, when it was placed on display. It was restored to operational condition for the NS Steam program from 1987 to 1991. Sadly, the program ended in 1994, just before 1218's rebuild was complete. It is uncertain, but hopeful, that the engine will run again. The flat terrain between Lynchburg and Norfolk, Virginia is a common spot to observe the A's in action. But similar scenes can happen in Ohio too. Let's imagine a 4th of July RS event with tributes to the 2664s on the two lines out of Portsmouth as they race freight trains across southern Ohio, reminiscing their Iron Horse ancestors. This 4-day NW Fast Freight celebration should be fun. Sit back, enjoy a drink and snack, and relax. Picture an imaginary 4th of July showcasing steam locomotives that defined Norfolk and Western's fast freight service in the 1950s. Join us as we race through Ohio with the A's, honoring rail history. Our first night starts on Wednesday, July 1st, at the Portsmouth Yard after a long day of travel and work. Just as we're about to savor dessert from a local ice cream shop, a familiar hooter whistle catches our attention. It's the NS local freight L55 slowly entering the yard to complete its day's work. This train runs only on weekdays between Portsmouth and Circleville, Ohio, and it is powered by A-Class 2664 number 1237, a tribute. Although local runs like this are rare for the fast 2664 freight engines, such long-distance local trains keep them busy and create more chances for rail fans to watch. Tonight, we see just this one train, but it's our first encounter with this episode featuring the A-Class locomotive. Listen and enjoy. Later, we'll hear number 1237 arrive at the Portsmouth Steam Museum shop area for the night after being cut off from the train. Afterwards, we'll go back to our hotel for the evening. Tomorrow begins the main event. It's early Thursday morning, July 2nd. After breakfast, we start our day by chasing a northbound train from Portsmouth to Columbus, led by Tribute Locomotive A, number 1231. This engine pulls NS Train 420, which carries hopper cars filled with coke, headed for Indiana Harbor, Indiana. We have several sound clips of this train in this sequence. First, we will hear it as it departs from the Portsmouth yard, shortly after we finish setting up. Then we chase it through multiple Ohio towns like Wetmore, Piketon, Chillicothe, Circleville, and South Bloomfield near Columbus. Enjoy this morning's chase of our first train on the first day of the event. After following NS 420 with 1231, we moved southeast to Kenova, West Virginia for lunch and sightseeing. We then crossed the Ohio River into South Point, Ohio, to catch our second train of the day, a single-stack container train. NS 271 leaves Crewe, Virginia, heading to Sharonville, Ohio shortly after leaving Norfolk at around 11 a.m. Until it reaches Rickenbacker Yard in Columbus, steam powers the train from Williamson, West Virginia. The engine, a Tribute A number 1214, is in charge. Around 5 p.m., we hear the train start to accelerate after crossing the Ohio River. But before we listen, let me explain something. Double-stack intermodal trains are usually not powered by steam because they don't look like anything like what steam engines pulled in the 1940s or 50s. They are usually carrying containers from ships at the port and are used to reduce traffic on the roads. When they reach their destination, trucks haul them to their final delivery point not far from the yard. The term double stack means that one container is placed on top of another to increase the load and further decrease traffic jams on the highway. Single stack or piggyback trailer trains can be exciting for steam to pull, as this practice dates back to the early 1940s. So with all of that explained, back to the story. Enjoy the powerful sound of this steam freight train as it begins to pick up speed to Portsmouth. The final train of the day is captured from the engine's cab as we gear up for an unforgettable journey. We're in the cab of the Tribute Locomotive A, number 1201, hauling manifest freight 19M. The train departs from Crewe, Virginia, heading to Elkhart, Indiana. Number 1201 will power the train from Williamson, West Virginia to Columbus, with some switching in Portsmouth, then switch to diesel engines at Columbus for the remainder of the trip. The first part shows the train racing along the Ohio River to Portsmouth. The second part captures the train working steadily out of Portsmouth on its northern route. We will end the sequence at a siding in Waverly, Ohio, as the train waits for a meet. Then we will return to Portsmouth for the night. This ride will be unforgettable. A cab journey aboard an NWA, pulling a freight train behind its tender. On Friday, July 3rd, we are outside the Portsmouth yard after breakfast at our hotel. At 9:30 a.m., we hear the first train depart, an empty coal train 831, returning to the mines near Williamson, West Virginia, led by Tribute A number 1212. After spotting the train leaving, we race to the midpoint between Portsmouth and Kenova. As crossing bells ring, we hear the train pass the Haverhill, Ohio Furnace Road crossing, which runs alongside the Ohio River Scenic Byway near Ironton, Ohio. It's a good spot to listen to a steam train this morning. We're currently at the Kenova, West Virginia yard, awaiting activity around 11 a.m. The first movement involves a train stopping for servicing. It's Coal Train 832, led by Tribute A number 1230. It halts for water before proceeding to Portsmouth. Then, much to our surprise, another train passes, pushed by a different engine, not an A, This is an NS ballast work train heading to MOW crews working on the track a few miles south of Kenova. The engine pushing the train is Tribute Z1B 2662 number 1426. This is quite a sound segment with an unexpected treat. We are now undertaking our second steam train chase of the day. The train is again NS single-stack train 271, now led by Tribute A number 1224. As it departs South Point, Ohio, crossing the Ohio River Bridge from Kenova, we'll hear its whistle blowing long and mournfully. It might be blowing for a crew member's family watching nearby. Afterwards, the train will pass through Ironton and Allentown, rumbling along the river towards Portsmouth. To wrap up the day, engine 1224 will soon move to the Y at Portsmouth after disconnecting from 271. The diesel engines will then take over because of a hot bearing on one of 1224's tender wheels. In RS events, having a backup plan is crucial when problems occur. The crew is carefully guiding the engine to the service area for inspection. After 1224 is stored overnight, the last action of the second day involves an empty NS grain train 47R. Tribute A number 1203 brings the train into the yard for servicing before heading towards Columbus in the evening. It's 7 p.m. now, and we will go to our Portsmouth hotel for the night to get ready for the next 2 days. Today is July 4th, a Saturday. Our morning chase starts not in Portsmouth, but in Circleville, Ohio, near Columbus. It is now 10 a.m. after an early drive from Portsmouth. We are positioned at the bridge where the NS Columbus District line crosses Orr Road near Circleville. The train moving south towards Portsmouth is the empty coal train 83E, which is powered by Tribute A number 1228 on its southbound journey. This morning, we will hear the train several times on its trip to Kenova at several points. First, the train is crossing the Orr Road Bridge. Then, it will cross the Scioto River Bridge in Waverly, Ohio, as we hear it from Route 220. Next, it passes the Lambro Lane crossing in Franklin Furnace, Ohio, southeast of Portsmouth. Then we will hear it near Ironton at the Haverhill, Ohio Furnace Road crossing. Finally, we will hear the train arrive in Kenova for a service stop. By then, it will be 2 p.m., after nearly 4 hours of tracking this train. Taking a break from chasing trains, we'll have lunch at a spot next to the engine terminal in Kenova. While eating lunch, we listen to the engines simmering away as they prepare for their runs. A mix of A's and Y's, creating a steam haven. Just relax and picture these massive metal beasts resting before their next mainline journey. The last train of the day will be the one we catch in the crew boxcar behind the engine. As I noted earlier, the crew boxcar is used by steam crews traveling with their steamer in case any problems occur during their run. It is equipped with a radio and GPS, allowing crews to communicate their location and report issues to other trains. For this trip, we're riding behind the Tribute A number 1227 as it pulls NS Manifest 19M from Kenova to Portsmouth. Today marks the final day of our 4th of July RS outing. On Sunday, July 5th, we wake up early around 4 a.m. and check out of the hotel. The first of the 2 last trains to pass will leave Portsmouth heading north to Columbus. It's a heavily loaded coal train number 698 from DuPont City, West Virginia, bound for Sandusky, Ohio. Tribute A number 1210 leads the train, and we hear its thunderous departure from Portsmouth as it fades into the darkness. After an hour of driving with no traffic, we will hear the same train passing by as it reaches the end of its journey early in the morning. Nearby, a dog barks and crickets chirp in the bushes. The sun will soon rise. The final train featured at this event is NS Train 420, consisting of hopper cars loaded with coke. An additional Tribute A, number 1242, leads the train as it completes its run before transferring the consist to the diesel engines waiting in the Rickenbacker yard near Columbus. We first hear the train at the same spot where we previously heard number 1210 and its train. The episode ends with the sound of 1242 entering the yard and preparing for rest, marking our farewell as we return to Michigan to relax for the afternoon. This event showcased the Norfolk and Western's A-class locomotives, the mainline freight engines of their time. More on these locomotives will come in future episodes, especially when we visit the renowned Blue Ridge Grade in Virginia. In conclusion, I want to thank John Cook of Green Frog Productions for permitting me to include the sounds in this episode to spark your imagination. I also appreciate my Aunt Elizabeth Tremblay for her careful editing of my podcast scripts. I look forward to our next adventure, so there's nothing more to add. This is Alec Butler from Revival Steam. See you next time.